Welcome back, everybody. This is Tucker. Let's talk weather. We're giving you an early look at the next big storm and severe weather threat. We're also breaking down who sees the heaviest rain and the heaviest snow. And get ready for spring, because some of you are in for more than just a taste next week. Quite a week we've had, isn't it? Had some snow, severe weather, and now the temperatures are just going all over the place. Sounds like March, doesn't it? Of course, let me know what you're seeing outside your window. I'd love to hear it in the comments. And as I record this video, here's our radar right now. Some activity out there, central part of the country in the northeast. But let's get ahead to what is going to come in the next week or so. We're giving you an early look at what will be a big storm across the U.S. So guess where I'm taking you? Straight to the 500 millibar level, 15,000 feet up. And what we're looking at here is more or less the jet stream and how much energy is associated with it. The more energy it has, the better the chances for a strong storm system and potentially severe weather. And let's get this started. As we go through into Sunday the 9th, you're going to see this one wave of energy reach the southeastern U.S. It's not the most powerful thing we've seen, but it will bring the potential for some rain and storms out there as we close out the weekend. Then we have this ridge begin to emerge in the central U.S. on Monday the 10th and Tuesday the 11th, and that's where you have this gap in activity. Quieter weather is expected across much of the U.S. as that ridge takes over. But watch the west coast as we move into the 13th, and this is where things get a lot more interesting. You're going to see a jet streak as we call it, reach the west coast, and especially where you see it become a bit more frayed out here. That on the 13th is where we have a very good chance for heavy rain and heavy snow. But it doesn't just stop there. As this moves into the central part of the country, that's when we have the potential for severe weather associated with this jet of energy. It'll inject a lot of wind energy into the atmosphere, and when you see this U shape, that digging shape, that means there's going to be some instability associated with it as well. So here we are on the 14th, and a very broad portion of the country may be in for a severe weather threat. We're going to take a look at instability as well, because that'll be a factor here too. But I also want to mention that it doesn't just stop there in the central U.S. This will impact the entire United States, and it will eventually reach the eastern U.S. out here on the 15th and into the 16th, bringing potentially inclement weather to the entire country over a 3-day span. So let's take a look at future radar, and I'll also give you an idea of where that severe threat is greatest based on the instability outside too. By the way, if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to do so, because I'll have updates on these threats coming out all week long, and if you have any questions, I will answer each and every one of them in the comments. And here we are looking at future radar. We're moving this into Sunday first off. Remember, I mentioned that wave of energy in the southeast. Well, you can see the storms out there. This is mainly on Sunday. Nothing crazy, but could be some heavy rain for sure. And that'll brush most of the southeastern U.S., including Florida, heading into the start of the week as well. Then we have that lull across most of the country here as we get into Monday and Tuesday. You can see how quiet it is, generally speaking. There is a clipper system out there in southern Canada, but that's largely going to stay out of our way. We'll create some wind, but that's about it. But then as we get into the 13th, you're going to see that rain meet the western U.S. And actually, this is on the 12th, in fact, that rain and snow arrives. It'll get worse on the 13th as it spreads farther to the west, now across the mountains, bringing heavy snow. And then our system really starts to develop once it's across the Rockies. First things first, there will be a lot of wind, even if not all these places see severe weather. When you have those isobars, those black lines packed tight together, there's a big pressure gradient, and that means there's going to be a lot of wind. And here we are on the 14th. You can see those storms emerging, and certainly they'll be along some fronts, it appears, out there, with the potential for some heavy snow on the western end of this system. Very similar to what we just saw. Granted, we do have some more things to look at here before we nail down the severe weather threat, but you can see exactly where the system's going to be and where that rain is very possible. And even on the 15th and 16th especially, we have that secondary piece of energy that reaches the East Coast, bringing some rain out there. But the severe weather threat, I'm going to show you this now, is going to be dependent on how much energy is out there. And right here, you're looking at a map of where the instability is most likely. And you can see it is a more narrow region here. It stretches as far north as somewhere like Iowa or even South Dakota, but there's not a lot. So really, if you're in Missouri and farther north, that's where it's kind of marginal. There may be a chance for severe weather, but I don't expect it to be a very significant one. It's farther south here, and this is a bit removed from that strongest wind. That's where you have enough instability. So right now, while this is certainly a severe threat, I'm not overly concerned about it because we don't have a very good crossover between the wind and the instability, but it is something we'll need to watch very closely. Of course, this thing brings a lot of rain, like I mentioned, and you can see across the western U.S., we're looking at totals that are going to be in the order, anywhere you're seeing these red colors at least, of 2 to 4 inches, and likely some areas seeing 4 to 8 inches, especially in the hills and mountains out there. So a very big rainfall for pretty much the entire West Coast. I mean, we're talking SoCal all the way up to Seattle, Washington, and into the British Columbia province. Also some good precip in the mountains out there. I want to mention too, the southeast will see an inch or two of rain on that precursor system. And then as we move this forward, you're going to see the East Coast gets in on that rain as well. And we may be looking at a widespread, again, 2 to 4 inches is possible for some areas, widespread 1 to 2 inches at least across most of the eastern U.S. into the 16th. So it's the rain that's big, but also the snow too. And if we take a look at snow totals, you can see out west, once again, pretty clearly, we have amounts that are going to be very high. I mean, we're measuring it in feet across the Sierra Nevadas, Cascades out there, even into the Rockies. I mean, this is another, foot snowfall for most of those mountains, if not several feet, which have just been round after round of heavy snow out there. But then on the backside of our system, this snow out here I'll mention is totally separate. So don't pay too close attention to that. But out here you're going to see on the backside of our potential severe weather maker, that's where we add some more snow. So the north central U.S. does have the potential to add a few more inches. Wouldn't shock me if we're looking at, some totals in the order of 6 to 10 inches out there. That's where you're seeing those purple colors. That's where it's most likely at this time. But we are still a ways out. So exactly where the heaviest snow is, we will have to watch and narrow down. But nonetheless, this is an impactful system and one that will bring wide-reaching weather impacts to the country, especially between the 13th and the 16th. So we'll be watching closely, and you'll want to check back for more. Now we're going to move into temperatures because a lot of you are going to get a taste of early spring. Results may vary, by the way, because there can always be snow in April. But here we are as we start off the weekend. You can see anywhere you're seeing those orange colors, that's where it's going to be warmer than average, blue colors, colder than average. And the start of the weekend, it could still be kind of chilly across most of the U.S. And the end of the weekend, pretty similar deal. But as we head into Sunday, that is a very warm air mass entering the north central U.S. And we're going to see that really overtake most of the eastern U.S. here as we get into the start of the week. So while the north central U.S. starts off mild, it is here on Tuesday. This is around the 11th that we begin to see it overtake the eastern U.S. And you're going to see that general pattern stick around where those warmer than average temps through Wednesday, Thursday now, even into Friday, are going to be present across the eastern half of the United States. The western half, different story. Here we are. This is Friday the 14th. On the backside of that big storm system, it gets cold, and we're going to see that reflected in temperatures. These are temperature anomalies, by the way. I'll show you the actual temperatures here in a moment. But one thing stays pretty certain. The East Coast stays mild into the middle of the month. So while you can never completely rule out snow, those snow chances are going to be vastly lower out there as these temperatures become mild. And as for actual temperatures, here we are looking at temps generally in the 40s across the U.S. here on Saturday. Warm, though, in the southeastern U.S. Highs in the 70s, even 80s out there. On Sunday, we see 50s overtake a good portion of the United States now. Still a bit cold in the northeast, but very warm, especially in the southernmost portions of the country. And then on Monday, remember that warm air begins to overtake the central U.S. and the eastern U.S. You're seeing 60s, possibly even 70s into places like Nebraska. Even southern Iowa is in play for that. And as we continue, you can see 70s easily overtaking the entire southeastern U.S. Some 80s mixed in there. We'll see 60s all the way up the East Coast, reaching portions of southern New England. And we're going to stay mild until Wednesday and Thursday as well. You're seeing, again, high temperatures largely in the 60s and 70s where you're getting those red colors. And we're going to be nice and mild here onto the 14th as well. Remember, this is when we have the severe weather threat, so no surprise. Many of these areas in the central U.S. will be mild, where I'm circling in yellow here. Again, your severe weather threat, where those temperatures are more mild heading into the 14th. But we continue to see that mild weather stick around, especially across the eastern U.S. here. Highs generally fluctuating between 50s and 60s. For most of that chunk of the country. And like I said, I expect this milder weather may be sticking around here into at least the later days of the month, if not through the rest of the entire month. So that will wrap things up here, but remember to subscribe, ask any questions you have in the comments. I'm out here in the Northeast, and I'm looking forward to that spring-like feel. We just got to get through some of the cold weather, as many of you guys do on this weekend first. So look forward to warmer days, and we'll be back here keeping a close eye on that severe weather threat and all the rain and snow coming to the U.S. the following week.